Okay, let's open up Unreal Engine. And let's go to the project that you created. In my case, it was tutorial project. And then I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to go to Recent Levels and Tutorial 1 Scene. Or you can go to Open Level, and then go to your Scene folder, and then go to the level that we created originally. So, okay, now we're in our level. There were some things that I made some mistakes in my last tutorials. One of the first tutorials, well, the second tutorial I've ever made. And I accidentally covered up an important part of the screen with my video. Sorry about that. So we're going to go over some of those things that we covered in last video over again, a little bit more quickly this time, just to make sure that you understand what was going on. So, we're going to go to our actor folder. Let's open up our actor. I get a little impatient sometimes and I click too many times. Unreal likes to take a long time to load. It freezes a lot too. It makes me feel like I'm back in the 90s sometimes. So, this is the part that I was covering up on accident. This is a very important part. It's where all our components are. Remember, we created a scene, and then we added the cube, and then we added a collision box, a box collision on the cube. And so, sometimes when I was pulling things over, like this cube for instance, I was pulling it from here. And then to get the overlap, this guy, the on component begin overlap box and the on component end overlap box event, that you find if you click on box and you scroll down over into the preferences, it's all right here. And that's where the click was as well. But that, I could not get that to work. And that's because I've never actually done it before, because I usually do VR. I don't usually do first person or third person, but for testing I did first person because it's easier to just be able to use my keyboard to move rather than have to get into my headset and test for you guys so you can see what's going on. So I just kind of made the first person template, even though I don't really have a lot of experience in first person, but I figure a lot of the things are the same. Eventually we'll move on to VR and eventually AR. And but for now we're just learning basics. So let's go over some basics. So I kind of skimmed over some things, so I feel like we should just kind of go over those things again. First of all, I don't even know if this is a necessary step for this. It might be. But to test that, I'm going to go ahead and test to see if it is. Because we might just need this to make this happen. But I'm just going to test. So I broke that node by clicking on it with Alt. I'm going to push play. Alright, now I'm going to run into it. Okay, so it seems to still be working even though I disconnected that. So that actually was not necessary, this part. We might need this for later. So I'm going to just keep that disconnected. What I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight it and then press C. And here's a little comment. And this is just like, you know, cast to actor for player. It's just a little note to myself that I might want to use this later. But it wasn't necessary. We really just needed this little guy. Basically, it says that this action will only execute if the other actor that it overlaps is the first-person character, which is our player. So this little guy just basically says, "Hey, is it this guy? Is it this actor that you're looking for? And if so, then execute down the line. Otherwise, it will just stop right here. But if it is, then it will continue and then go to this guy and then do whatever this does, which this says set the move integer to 1. And then over here on the end overlap, so when on component begin overlap, that's when our player is overlapping that collision box. And this collision box, when our actor overlaps this, like actually moves into it, then it's going to execute this. It says, if the object that overlapped me is the player, then set the integer to 1. And then this one says when the player ends the overlap, then if it is the player and the player is the one that exit out of the box, ended the overlap, then set the integer to 0. And then, so here's the integer. This is what it's setting, and this is the variable right here. You can make this public so that you could see this in the window in the over here. You'd be able to see it if you made it public, and so that's how you'd make it public. And it'd also be able to, you'd be able to, other scripts would be able to see it too. So it would be able to communicate that information with other scripts if you make it public. If you don't want anyone to touch it or mess with it, you would leave it private. This little guy is reading whatever this number is. So when this number is 1, it's going to execute whatever is down the line. And if this number is 0, it's going to execute whatever's down the line. Nothing's down the line here, which is what we wanted. We didn't want anything to happen when it's 0. We want it to only move when it's 1. And then, so whenever it ends the overlap, it turns to 0 and then it ends up doing nothing. Whereas when it begins overlap on 1, it turns to 1, then it performs this action. So this is an event. This is a custom event that we created in last lesson. This is the custom event. How you create one is you'll right click in the window, you write in custom event, and then you add it in there, and then you gotta name it something. Name it whatever the action is, so you know what's going on, so it's easy to understand. Like if I'm changing the color, then changing the material. Changing material events. Or something like that, you know. I forgot how you change the material, but I don't think it's hard to figure out. Whatever you don't know, you can always look up on Google, or you can ask ChatGPT whatever you don't know, and you'll find the answer. Someone knows the answer, so whatever you don't know, you can figure it out. I'd probably end up looking it up, but I'm just gonna test. I'm not sure if it's gonna work. But I'm curious. So, I just found that by putting in set material, and then I clicked on this guy, the one with the cube. But if it doesn't pull up the cube, you can always just pull the cube over here and then connect it into target. It's the same thing. It's all the same thing. And then I changed material to whatever I had, like as their default. I believe that's what they have on the bullets that they have for the guns that come with a template. So, I'm just gonna right click on I'm gonna click on this, or right click on this, and then I'm gonna rename it, but I'm not actually gonna rename it. I'm just copying the name, and then I'm right clicking on the window and I'm pasting in the name so that I can pull it up really easily. So now I have it. And so instead of it moving, well, actually I want it to do both. So I want it to change colors and I want it to move 20 spots. And then maybe we want it to change like a different color when it's done. So what I did was I copied this and then I'm pasting it and then I'm going to change the name. So rename changing material back events. My capitalization's all over the place. Please excuse that. So when it goes back to 0, I'm gonna want it to perform this action, which is change the material back, and the original material, say it was like base material. Alright, so these are 2 different events. Well, all 3 of these are 3 different events. And it executes whenever this integer is changed to 0 or 1. So let's go ahead and test that. It obviously works, even though I didn't really get to try it because I was too close to the thing. But it worked. Okay. That's pretty cool, huh? Whenever it, I'm no longer lapped, it changes back. Pretty neato. Okay. So, this is on event tick, so it's constantly doing this. And, you don't really want that to happen because it kind of is expensive on your game. It makes it run slow when you have a lot of things on tick. So let's go ahead and break that. Remember, I use Alt and I click on the string. Let's create a custom event. And let's name it, I don't know. I'm having a hard time being creative right now, but like, let's move switch. Alright, now just rename it, copy, paste it in here so you can pull it up. So if you did this, it'd basically be the same thing. It would still be running on tick. Which is fine for testing purposes, but let's go ahead and try to control that a little bit. So we can control the execution flow so there's not too much information running at the same time to slow down your game. So I only want this to execute when I either overlap or end overlap. So let's copy and paste it, and I'm going to put it both in this guy. I'm not sure where I'm going to be placing this. I might need to place it before, after, before this guy right here in this spot. Like, the order matters. I just don't really know exactly what the correct order is at the moment until I like kind of test it. So let's test it. Alright, so that obviously did not work. It is not working in that spot. Let's try it ahead of it. A lot of game design is a lot of testing and experimenting and failing and continuing to test until you get it. Alright, that looked like it works. It's not as responsive because it's not on the tick. And the tick is always updating, whereas this is only happening when I'm overlapping, and it's not moving. But it is changing colors. And so I guess you kind of have to have it on the tick because... Alright, let's, there was something I also forgot to do. So I believe I need to connect this new track to overtime. I believe that I forgot to do that last time on the timeline. Alright, I'm just going to test it again. Alright, the movement still works. Okay, so the movement works now with the timeline. I think that was an issue before. So it's not as responsive because it's not on tick. Like I said, it's only registering when I'm overlapping. Sometimes it can be kind of buggy when it's like that. But it also doesn't slow down your game like it would if you had a bunch of events on tick. You don't want that. You want to control when things happen or when they're executed. You don't want it to constantly be checking if it needs to be activated. It only is activated when I overlap these boxes. It's interesting that it kind of stops moving. Okay, let's take a look at that. So hard to take this off of tick. We have a gate that could stop that execution whenever we want it to. So let's do that. So what I'm going to do is go to tick, go to gate, and then create two different custom events. one called open move gates and one called close move gates. Oops. And then connect that to close. Alright, and now bring that to move switch. Okay, so now this gate is only going to open whenever this event is called, and then the gate closes when this event is called. And then these events are called whenever this takes place. The overlap on the box collision. I moved it after the casting because I only want it to happen whenever it is my player that overlaps the box. So that's why it's after that, the casting. So let's test it, see if it works. You never know. Okay, it seems to work. Doesn't turn back to white though. Oh, I see. I actually need to close it after I set it. Because if I close it before, it doesn't even perform the action. So, let's try this again. Huh. Still doesn't want to go to 0. It doesn't want to do this. Alright, let's play it and look at it on here. Remember, you go to it by clicking over here and then you can see it in real time. So right now the gate's closed. And if I go inside, if I overlap, it opens the gates. I think maybe I need to put a delay on this. I don't want to close it. I don't want to close it until after I'm done executing it changing back. So I'm actually going to move that over. Close move gate over to changing material back. So this only executes after I change it. Let me just see if that works. It works. It changes back. Nice. What else can I teach you? You can add more events. You can add so many events on to switch on int. So you just keep adding them and then just changing the int to whatever number, and then it'll execute whatever event that you created. So we could have like a bunch of different colors, or we could tell it to move to a bunch of different spots, or we can make it do anything really, if you have a specific animation that you put in, which we'll talk about later in another tutorial. If you want to delete these, just right click and go to remove. It's kind of tedious, but you could just remove each one to make it cleaner. Just showing you that you can add more to it. Is there anything else that I could teach you in this lesson? And there's plenty more. So, the reason why we do the switch on ints, is because they're not as expensive as maybe a bool would be. A bool is true or false. If something's true or something's false. For some reason it's cheaper to do integers instead of using bools. But if you were to use a bool, I want to show you how you would do that. So let's just, the action that we're going to perform is we actually don't need that. We could just take this. So this is the action we're going to perform if this Boolean is true or false. So what you're going to do is you're going to add in a variable, and it's already a Boolean. Booleans are usually default, but that's what you would be choosing as a Boolean. And then change it, rename it to whatever you want it to be, like overlap. Objects overlapped or something, and then drag that over, and you're gonna go to get, and you're gonna rename this event. You're gonna rename it to check overlap. Check object overlap. And then you're going to drag it over, and you're going to type in branch. So branch is the node. It's a very important node for Booleans because it's checking the condition. So it's checking to see if this is true or false. You can set this to true or false, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But if this is true, then it'll execute this. If it's not true, then we'll make it execute this, basically, or whatever. Or you don't have to have anything at all right there. But if you want to make a certain action, if it's false, then you attach an event to it. And then so when do we want this event called? We want this event called whenever something happens, but for now I will just put it on the end of this. It doesn't really make sense for me to be making it something that's already happening, but I'm just trying to give you an idea of what a Boolean is. So don't worry about the events right now. I'm just trying to give you the concept of a Boolean. So basically, and how you would set this to true or false is you would just drag this over and go to set. And then if it's checked, it's true. If it's not checked, then it's false. And you could create another custom event that sets it to true. So set object overlap to true. And then this event would set it to true. And I could call this whenever, maybe when it overlaps or something. So if it's set to true, then whenever this is called, it's going to check it. And I could put this on, event tick, which I did, but on a gate, so it's controlled. And it checks it, and if it's true, then it performs this action. If it's not true, it performs this action. So we also would want one that says turns it to false. So go ahead and do another custom event. Set object overlap to false. Then you just copy that and then uncheck it, and you know how to retrieve it. So now we have a true or false. So what we could do is we could, instead of having these integers, we could just have setting it to true or false. And then instead of having a switch at all, we would just have the Booleans, which, like I said before, it's more expensive. But it's just another way of doing things. So I just want you to know, about it. Alright, so let's just test that and see if it works. It works. So the true and false does work. It's more expensive, so if you have a bunch of those, if it's constantly checking true or false, it's gonna make your game run slower. So you gotta, the integers is just a smarter way of doing it. But as you can see, it's checking it. It's true, so it changed it. Anyway. So that's how you would do a Boolean. What else could I teach you? A lot of what I do is in VR, so I think a lot of the lessons in the future will be in VR and not in first person. But I need to make a list of things that we need to cover first, like all the basics. Things that are easier to test within the first person perspective. Maybe let's just go over some of these components real quick. So I had you add in a cube, but what you would normally be doing is adding in a static mesh or a skeleton mesh. Skeleton mesh has a rig, so that's usually something that you would be animating. And then a static mesh is just a normal 3D object. And let's go ahead and add a static mesh. I'm going to show you how to upload your own custom static meshes. So go to content, make a folder called models. Click on it, and then we're going to import a 3D model. Sorry, I kind of went through that a little bit fast, but basically you're going to bring in an FBX file. I believe you can also bring in an object file. We're going to go with an FBX file. So how you would do that is you go to Contents, you go to File, File, Import into Level, and then go into your files and find your FBX files. That is files that you've either exported out of Maya or Blender or you downloaded online. These are 3D model files. And you just click on whichever file that you wanted to open. I'll teach you how to make models in Maya later. But for now, either download them online or you don't have to do this step right this second. We will go over it again once we start messing with Maya. Here is my 3D model that I made in Maya, and go over to the static mesh that we added, and then go over to static mesh over here in the preferences in the details window, and then click on the model that you wanted. We're gonna I'm gonna delete this cube. So attach the static mesh to your scene, and then attach the box to the static mesh and delete that cube. And go back over here because we deleted the cube. It's now asking for it. So we're going to hook the static mesh up to all of these connections that have turned red because we no longer had the cube. Not sure why it's not showing up. Probably because it's off-centered. Yeah, there it is. So, yeah, when I did this in Maya and uploaded it, I didn't do it in a very smart way. So, that's why we have the scene to offset it. I'm just going to try to move it into the spot where it needs to be. It's important to always export it in the 0, 0, 0 world position. So that it's not offset like that. But you can always use a scene to offset it back to where you need it to be. It's just kind of a pain. As you can see right now, it's still off-centered. It's really annoying. I could probably actually use this to move it so I don't have to use the cursor and zoom out. Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, that didn't work. I have to do it right here on the scene if I want to rotate it. There we go. So I don't have those memorized. So those static meshes, remember we added the physics to the cube. Well, now we gotta do it to these meshes. So, because they don't come with it. We're gonna go to the static mesh. You're gonna rename it actually to your whatever objects it is. This is a sphinx, so. Simulate physics. Just block all. Actually, we'll block all dynamic, maybe. Alright, we got the boxes are not on it, so let's put the box on the actual sphinx and make the boxes bigger, the collision boxes, so it covers it. Now the collision box will fall with the sphinx now that it's attached to it. Okay, now we can overlap. Now they turned yellow. And back to white. Cool. They're oh, maybe because they fell that way. What else? I could show you how to destroy something or make something not visible. So, let's say, let's undo these. Let's make a custom event. Make invisible. And then do another one. Make visible. Or you can destroy it, which I think destroying it is more expensive, but we'll show you both ways. So make visible, we're gonna drag it over and go to set visibility. Just delete that. Copy it and drag it over, and then so to make it visible it needs to be checked, and to make it invisible it needs to be unchecked. And then it's gonna make, we're just leaving it blank because it's gonna make itself invisible. And then now drag it to destroy object and go to put it in destroy actor and just leave it to self, so it's gonna destroy itself. Actually, it says we need to have an object connected. It's not gonna let us do self on this one. So let's just drag over the sphinx object, and we're gonna make that turn visible or invisible depending on what's called. Go ahead and pull these out. And then we're going to play with it on the int. So first we'll just do the visible invisible thing. So it's going to be visible if it's on 0 and invisible if it's on 1. Let's test. So if I run into it, it should be invisible. And that did not work. That did not work. Why did it not work? Oh, because of this. Let's try that again. Still not working. Let's check again why it's not working. Probably oh yeah. Because we're not setting the ints, that's why. We're doing the true or false. That's why it wasn't working. Because we changed it to this method. To the Boolean method. So now, see, now when I overlap it, it disappears. It should reappear, but I think I know why it doesn't. It's because that box. If it's invisible, it can't register it. No, it should work. I think this actually needs to be switched. So whenever I overlap it, it disappears, but when I'm not overlapping it, it reappears. So that could be like, you could use that for like, as like a door, like whenever you enter a door, it disappears, and then when you leave it, it reappears. Or maybe like a house appears whenever you enter a certain area. Anyways, that's how you would use the visibility. And then the destroy would just outright destroy it. So whenever it overlaps, it'll destroy the object. And now the objects are destroyed. They're no longer in the game. If I want to spawn an object, like after I destroy one, I want one to spawn. Go to spawn actor of class and then pick what you want to spawn, which would be an actor 1 BP. Where do you want it to spawn? Well, I want to get the location of the Sphinx. So get world location. And then I want to set it. So create a variable, change it to vector, rename it to Sphinx location, and then you go to set, and then you're gonna get the Sphinx location, and you're gonna set it before you destroy the actor. Before you destroy the Sphinx, you're gonna get its location, and then you're gonna spawn another one at that location. But we don't want to do it like as soon as we destroy it, because then you won't really tell that anything happened. So we're gonna delay it a little bit. So go to delay and delay it a few seconds. Let's just test it. So I destroyed it, and another one should spawn. Actually, because I destroyed the actor, it's not going to execute this because it's destroyed, so it no longer can read this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to not destroy the actor, but just destroy a component of the actor. I just want to destroy the Sphinx. Let's see if that works. Yep, and now it's spawning a bunch of them. So I need to only spawn it once. So how I'm going to do that is after delay, say do once. So now when I destroy an actor, another one spawns. It should have spawned like, I should make it not so immediate. Maybe 1 second delay. And another one. If I want to destroy the boxes too, then I would just say also destroy those collision boxes. I would do this. So when it's destroying this component, I also wanted to destroy this component as well. I believe it would destroy all its children if I say destroy scene. Let's just check. No, I would have to, yeah, destroy each component. So now it's destroying the boxes too. And then I'm not sure why it's not spawning in the original spot where, in its location that I told it to. So just set location. Oh, I know why. Because of the offset. So we're going to use the scene location, not the location of the static meshes. So now it's spawning in the correct spot. So in case you didn't see me do that, if I did it too fast, basically this was hooked up to Sphinx. I deleted that and I put the scene, because remember the Sphinx was really off, I had to offset it. So it's reading the distance of the Sphinx, which is not on 0, 0, 0. It's on this. But the scene makes it 0, 0, 0, so we want it zeroed out. If that makes any sense. Alright, so that it teaches you about destroying objects and spawning objects. And also about, creating custom static meshes, actors. And we went over a little bit of the other stuff that we didn't clarify before, like casting actors and integers and booleans. And in my next tutorial, I'll try to go over some animation type of stuff.